Every species underestimated humans until patience ran out. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked through the great halls of the Galactic Concord Assembly. Her footsteps echoed on the marble floor that was older than human civilization itself. Around her, aliens of every shape and size moved with purpose. Some floated, some crawled, some walked on legs that bent in ways that made her dizzy to watch. None of them looked at her. None of them cared. She had been doing this job for 15 years. 15 years of being ignored. 15 years of sitting in the back of the assembly chamber, raising her hand to speak, and being told that the human delegate will have time at the end of the session. The end never came. There was always another matter. Always something more important. Today would be different, she told herself. Today, humanity's petition for expanded colony rights would finally be heard. They had followed every rule, filed every document, waited in every line. Surely, after 63 years of loyal membership in the Concord, they had earned the right to be heard. The assembly chamber was a vast dome of crystal and light. Thousands of delegates sat in rows that curved upward like the inside of a bowl. At the center, on a raised platform, sat the Council of Elders. 3 species ruled the Concord. The Varath hegemony sent their representative, a massive insect-like creature with 6 arms and mandibles that clicked when it was annoyed. The Solari Empire was represented by a being of living crystal, tall and beautiful and cold. The Dren Collective sent an ancient cephalopod whose tentacles never stopped moving. These 3 species had built the Concord 10,000 years ago. They had discovered faster-than-light travel while humans were still learning to farm. They had conquered disease while humans were dying of plagues. They had mapped the galaxy while humans were mapping their own small world. And they never let anyone forget it. Elena took her seat at the back of the chamber. A young human aide named Thomas sat beside her. He was new to this work, and his eyes were still full of hope. She remembered having eyes like that. She missed them. Is it true that they might approve our petition today? Thomas asked. Elena did not answer. She watched the Council of Elders begin the session. There were reports on trade agreements, discussions about border disputes between minor species, a long debate about the price of starship fuel. Hours passed. Her petition remained unmentioned. Finally, as the session neared its end, the Varath delegates' mandibles clicked 3 times. This was their signal for attention. There is one final matter, the Varath said. Its voice was translated by a device that made it sound flat and without emotion. The human delegation has submitted a petition for expanded colony rights in the outer reach. Elena stood. Her heart beat faster. After all these years, they would finally listen. The petition is denied, the Varath said. Elena blinked. I'm sorry? We haven't even presented our case. There is no need, the Solari representative said. Light moved through its crystal body like blood through veins. The outer reach territories are reserved for species with proven records of responsible development. Humans do not qualify. We have been members of this Concord for 63 years, Elena said. Her voice remained calm, but inside she was shaking with anger. We have followed every regulation. We have paid every tax. We have sent our soldiers to fight in your border conflicts. And we thank you for your service, the Dren delegate said. Its words were thick and wet, filtered through water. But service does not equal advancement. You are still a young species. Perhaps in another 100 years, you will be ready. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not loud, not cruel, but worse. The kind of laughter adults give to children who ask for things they cannot have. The kind of laughter that says, how cute, and means, how pathetic. Elena sat down. Thomas looked at her with confusion and pain in his eyes. That's it? He whispered. They just said no? They just said no, Elena said. The session ended. Delegates filed out, already forgetting about the humans and their silly petition. Elena gathered her documents and walked toward the exit. A Verith official blocked her path. It was smaller than the delegate, probably some kind of assistant. "Human," it said, its mandibles clicking. "You forgot to submit Form 7749B with your petition. Without it, your request was never valid in the first place." "I submitted every required form," Elena said. "I have copies." Form 7749B was added to the requirements yesterday, the Vara said. "You should pay more attention to regulation updates." It walked away, its hard shell gleaming under the lights. Elena returned to Earth's orbital station that evening. The station was called New Hope, a name that felt bitter now. She went directly to the United Terran Council chamber, where the leaders of humanity waited to hear her report. The council was made up of 12 members, representing the major regions of Earth and the human colonies. They sat around a curved table, their faces tired and worried. At the head of the table sat President Maria Santos. To her left sat Admiral Marcus Chun, commander of the Terran Defense Fleet. Admiral Chun was old. His hair was white, and his face was lined with decades of service. But his eyes were sharp, like a knife that had been sharpened so many times it had become thin and dangerous. "Tell us," President Santos said. Elena told them everything. The dismissal, the laughter, the sudden new form that had never existed before. When she finished, the room was silent. "This is the 5th petition they have denied in 10 years, said Councillor James Okonkwo, who represented the African Union. "Each time, they find a new excuse. Because they don't want us to have those colonies," Admiral Chun said. His voice was quiet but heavy. "They want us to stay small. They want us to stay weak. They want us to stay useful." "Useful for what?" Thomas asked. He had followed Elena into the chamber, still learning, still hoping to understand. "Labor," Chun said. "Soldiers. Bodies to throw at their problems while they stay safe and comfortable." "Do you know why humans are assigned to the worst territories in the Concord? The irradiated moons? The volcanic wastelands? The high-gravity death worlds?" Thomas shook his head. "Because those places are too dangerous for other species," Chung continued. "But humans survive. We adapt. We work in conditions that would kill a Solari in hours. We fight in environments that would drive a Dren mad. And when we die, they shrug and say, 'There are always more humans.' We are tools to them. Nothing more." President Santos raised her hand. "We have discussed this before, Admiral. What would you have us do? Our fleet is tiny compared to theirs. Our technology is generations behind. If we challenge them, they will destroy us." "I am not suggesting we challenge them," Chun said. "I am suggesting we prepare. Quietly, patiently. We continue to follow their rules. We continue to smile and nod and do as we are told. But in secret, we build. We learn. We grow stronger. And when the time is right, we show them what humans can do." The council debated for hours. Some wanted to try again, to work within the system. Some wanted to accept their place and make the best of it. Some agreed with Chun but feared the risk. In the end, they reached a decision. "We endure," President Santos said. "We learn. We wait. But we also prepare. Admiral Chun, you are authorized to begin planning. Nothing that will attract attention. Nothing that will give them an excuse to act against us. But something, a foundation for the future." Chun nodded slowly. "It will take decades, perhaps longer. Then we had better start now," Santos said. Far from Earth, on a moon called Inferno's Edge, a woman named Yuki Tanaka swung her mining pick into the rock. The air around her was thick with heat and poisonous gases. Her suit protected her, but barely. Sweat dripped down her face, and every muscle in her body screamed for rest. Around her, 200 other human miners worked in silence. Above them, on a platform cooled by advanced technology, 3 Vareth overseers watched. They carried shock sticks and stunners. They never used them, but they made sure the humans could always see them. "Work faster," one of the overseers called down. "The quota is not met." Yuki did not respond. She had learned not to respond. She just kept swinging her pick, breaking rock, filling her cart, dragging it to the processing station, and starting again. 8 hours on, 4 hours off, 7 days a week. This was her life. This had been her life for 6 years. Her brother had died in this mine 2 years ago. A tunnel collapse. The Vareth had not even paused production to recover his body. He was still down there, somewhere in the dark, buried under 1,000,000 tons of rock. Yuk. I looked up at the sky. Through the toxic clouds, she could see stars. Thousands of them. Millions of them. Each one a sun, maybe with planets, maybe with life. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and humans were stuck here, digging in the dirt, serving masters who saw them as nothing more than animals. 60 years of this, she whispered to her crewmate, a young man named Kenji, who had arrived only a month ago. How much longer do we have to live like this? Kenji had no answer. None of them did. But far away, in hidden shipyards built into asteroids, human engineers were studying stolen alien technology. In secret laboratories on toxic worlds, human scientists were making breakthroughs that would have shocked their masters. In training camps on high-gravity planets, human soldiers were becoming stronger and faster than any species had thought possible. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. Every species underestimated humans until patience ran out. 4 years had passed since the petition was denied. 4 years of silence and patience. 4 years of insults that grew worse with each passing month. Elena Vasquez still served as Earth's ambassador, though sometimes she wondered why she bothered. The Concord did not want human voices. It wanted human hands and human blood. The news came on a cold morning in November. Elena was eating breakfast in her small apartment on the orbital station when her communicator buzzed with an emergency alert. She read the message 3 times before she believed it. The Solari Empire had annexed 3 human colony worlds in the Kepler Reach. She rushed to the council chamber, where chaos had already erupted. Holograms showed Solari warships in orbit around New Eden, Harmony, and Farhope. These were peaceful colonies. Farming worlds. 2 million humans lived there, growing food and raising families and building futures. They claim ancient territorial rights, Admiral Chun said. His voice was controlled, but Elena could see the anger burning in his eyes. They say their ancestors visited these systems 12,000 years ago. They left markers. Therefore, the systems belong to them. That's ridiculous, Councillor Okonkwo said. We terraformed those worlds. We built those cities. Our people have lived there for 30 years. The Concord has already ruled in their favor, President Santos said. Her face was gray with exhaustion. They heard the case this morning. Without us present. Without even notifying us. How can they do that? Thomas asked. He had grown older in the past 4 years, and some of his hope had faded, but this still shocked him. Because they can, Chun said. Because no one will stop them. Because we are nothing to them. The forced relocation began 3 weeks later. Solari troops landed on the 3 worlds and gave the human colonists 48 hours to leave. They could take only what they could carry. Homes, farms, businesses. Everything that generations had built was left behind. Elena watched the refugee ships arrive at Earth stations. Families with hollow eyes and trembling hands. Children who did not understand why they had lost their homes. Old people who had spent their lives building something beautiful, now left with nothing. One woman grabbed Elena's arm as she passed. "My husband stayed behind," she said. Her voice was hoarse from crying. "He refused to leave our farm. He said they would have to kill him." Her grip tightened. "They did. They shot him in front of our children." Elena held the woman while she sobbed. There was nothing else she could do. 6 months later, another tragedy struck. The Meridian Star was a merchant vessel, a cargo ship that had made the run between Earth and the outer colonies for 20 years. Captain Rosa Martinez was experienced and careful. Her crew of 47 was skilled and loyal. Her passenger list included 800 civilians, families traveling to visit relatives, workers heading to new jobs, students going to distant universities. The Dren Collective stopped the ship for a customs inspection. This was normal. What happened next was not. According to the official report, the Meridian Star's cargo manifest contained an error. One container of medical supplies was listed as containing 5,000 units when it actually contained 4,998. A difference of 2 units. 2 small boxes of bandages that someone had miscounted. The Dren declared this a violation of trade law. They ordered the ship impounded and the crew arrested. Captain Martinez protested. She offered to pay any fine, to correct the manifest, to do whatever was required. The Dren response was immediate and brutal. Their enforcement vessel opened fire. The Meridian Star was unarmed. It had no shields strong enough to withstand military weapons. In 30 seconds, it was reduced to burning wreckage. 847 people died. Men, women, and children. Families who had done nothing wrong. Lives ended because someone had miscounted. 2 boxes of bandages. The Concorde issued a statement calling the incident an unfortunate but lawful enforcement action. Elena Vasquez stood before the assembly and demanded a formal inquiry. She had documents proving that the cargo manifest was accurate, that the Dren had falsified their inspection report. She had testimony from the few survivors, crew members who had been on a shuttle when the attack occurred. She had evidence of murder. The Varath delegate's mandibles clicked rapidly. It was laughing at her. "Ambassador Vasquez," the Varath said, "you seem upset. Perhaps humans are too emotional for diplomatic work. Perhaps you should send someone more stable next time." The chamber erupted in laughter. Not the quiet, dismissive laughter of 4 years ago. This was loud and mocking. The Solari's crystal body chimed with amusement. The Dren's tentacles rippled with joy. Hundreds of alien delegates joined in, pointing at the small human woman who dared to demand justice. Elena stood in the center of that laughter and said nothing. She kept her face still. She kept her hand steady. She waited until the noise faded. "I will remember this," she said quietly. "We all will." Then she turned and walked out. That night, the United Terran Council made a decision that would change history. "Project Prometheus," Admiral Chun said, displaying schematics that glowed in the darkened chamber. "For the past 4 years, we have been quietly collecting alien technology, salvage from battles, stolen schematics, reverse-engineered components. We have learned much. But learning is not enough. It is time to build." The schematics showed ships unlike anything humanity had ever created. Sleek and powerful, with weapon systems that combined human innovation with alien science. Engines that were faster than Concorde standard. Shields that were stronger. Weapons that were more precise. "How long?" President Santos asked. 7 years to build a fleet capable of defending ourselves, Chun said. 10 years to build one capable of doing more. And where will we build these ships? The Concorde monitors all our shipyards. Chun smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. They monitor the shipyards they know about. They have never bothered to survey the asteroid fields we mine. They think we are too primitive to build anything there. They are wrong. Construction began in secret. Asteroid bases were hollowed out and filled with equipment. Human engineers worked in shifts, building ships piece by piece. Human scientists made breakthrough after breakthrough, improving on alien designs that the Concorde thought were perfect. And on every useless death world colony, human soldiers trained. They ran through toxic jungles. They climbed volcanic mountains. They fought in high gravity that would crush other species. They became harder and stronger and faster than anyone believed possible. The Concorde saw none of this. They looked at humanity and saw only miners and servants, weak creatures who smiled and obeyed. On the anniversary of the Meridian Star Massacre, the Varith ambassador hosted a celebration of his species' founding. It was a grand party, held in a palace of polished stone and precious metals. Thousands of guests attended, representatives of every major species in the Concorde. Human servants carried drinks on silver trays. The Varith ambassador noticed one of them, a young man with dark skin and careful eyes. "You there," the ambassador said, clicking its mandibles. "More wine." "Yes, sir," the young man said. He poured the wine with steady hands. "Tell me," the ambassador said, "how does it feel to serve your betters? Do your people still dream of being important? Or have you finally accepted your place?" The young man smiled politely. "We have learned much from the Concorde, sir. We are grateful for the opportunity to serve." The ambassador laughed and waved him away. The young man bowed and moved to the next guest. None of the aliens noticed that every human servant in the room was watching. None of them noticed that every word was being recorded. None of them noticed the quiet anger behind the polite smiles. The young man's name was David Okonkwo. He was Counselor Okonkwo's son. He was also a lieutenant in the Terran Defense Fleet, assigned to intelligence gathering. He had volunteered for this mission because he wanted to see the enemy up close. He wanted to understand the creatures who had killed 847 innocent people and laughed about it. He understood now. As the party continued, as the aliens drank and celebrated their own greatness, David thought about his sister. She had been on the Meridian Star. She had been traveling to visit him when the Dren had murdered her. He still had her last message, sent from the ship just hours before the attack. She had been excited about seeing him. She had been planning to surprise him with a cake for his birthday. She was gone now. Nothing left but ashes floating in the void. David carried another tray of drinks to another group of laughing aliens. He smiled and bowed and said, "Yes, sir, and thank you." "Sir, and right away, sir." Inside, he was counting the days. Far away, in an asteroid hidden behind a gas giant's moon, the first ship of the new Terran fleet was completed. It had no name yet. It was just a whole number and a set of specifications. But it was fast and strong and deadly. Admiral Chun walked through its corridors, touching the walls, feeling the hum of its engines. He was old now, past the age when most men retired. But he would not rest. Not yet. Not until the work was done. "How many more?" he asked the chief engineer. 47 in construction, the engineer replied. "We can increase production if we get more resources." "You will have them," Chun said. "Whatever you need. Just keep building." Every species underestimated humans until patience ran out. Year was 2258. 11 years had passed since the petition. 7 years since the Meridian Star. Humanity had endured countless small cruelties during that time, but they had also grown stronger in the shadows. The secret fleet now numbered over 2,000 ships. The secret army now counted over 10 million soldiers. And still no one suspected. Then the Kareth came. They appeared from the edge of the galaxy, from regions that the Concorde had never bothered to explore. They were predators, evolved from creatures that hunted in packs across frozen wastelands. Their bodies were covered in thick gray fur. Their mouths were filled with teeth designed for tearing flesh. Their eyes saw in the dark. Their claws could cut through metal. For 10,000 years, the Concorde had faced no real threat. The elder species had grown comfortable and soft. Their militaries existed mostly for parades and intimidation. Their soldiers trained rarely and fought even less. The Kareth Dominion changed everything. The first attacks were devastating. Kareth raiders struck at border colonies, killing everyone they found. They did not want territory. They did not want resources. They wanted blood. They enjoyed the hunt. They enjoyed to kill. The Concorde responded slowly and badly. Vareth fleets were sent to defend key worlds, but the Vareth soldiers had not fought a real war in centuries. They broke and ran at the first sign of serious resistance. Solari ships were beautiful but fragile, designed to impress rather than to fight. Dren forces were powerful but slow, unable to match the Kareth speed and aggression. In desperation, the Concorde turned to humanity. "You will send your ships to the Kareth front," the Vareth delegate announced at an emergency assembly session. It was not a request. It was an order. Your soldiers will serve as auxiliary forces under Concorde command. Elena Vasquez stood in her usual place at the back of the chamber. She was older now, her hair streaked with gray, but her eyes were still sharp. "What support will our forces receive?" "You will be issued standard defensive equipment," the Vareth said. "Standard defensive equipment is 2 generations obsolete," Elena replied. "Against the Kareth, our soldiers would be slaughtered. Then train them better," the Solari representative said, light flickering coldly through its crystal form. "We are giving you an opportunity to prove your worth. We suggest you take it." There was no choice. Refusing would give the Concorde an excuse to act against humanity, and Project Prometheus was not yet complete. The Council agreed to send forces, but they sent only volunteers. They sent only those who knew the truth and were willing to die for the dream of a free humanity. The first human units arrived at the front within weeks. They were assigned the most dangerous sectors, placed between the Kareth raiders and the Vareth defensive lines. Their equipment was old. Their ships were slow. Their casualties were terrible. But they fought. They fought with a fury that surprised the Kareth. They fought with tactics that the Concorde had never seen. When their ships were destroyed, they fought in the wreckage. When their weapons failed, they fought with their hands. When they should have died, they kept fighting. Captain Yuki Tanaka, the former miner, commanded a destroyer called the Fury of Osaka. She had earned her commission through years of service and sacrifice. Her crew was made up of men and women like her, people who had worked and suffered and survived. "Ma'am," her sensor officer called out, "Kareth raiding group incoming. 12 ships. They're heading for the civilian convoy." Yuki looked at her tactical display. The civilian convoy was carrying refugees from colonies that had already fallen. 10,000 people, including 3,000 children. The Vareth battle group that was supposed to protect them was holding position 3 light minutes away, refusing to engage. "Hail the Vareth commander," Yuki ordered. "Channel open." "Ma'am, Commander, the civilian convoy is under attack. We request immediate support." The Vareth commander's image appeared on screen. Its mandibles clicked with irritation. "We are not risking our ships for a human convoy. Hold your position and wait for the raiders to pass." "They won't pass," Yuki said. "They'll kill everyone on those ships." "Then you should have evacuated sooner." "This is not our concern." The channel closed. I stood in silence for a long moment. Her crew watched her, waiting for orders. They knew what she was thinking. They knew the choice she faced. All hands, Yuki said finally, her voice steady. Battle stations. We're going in. The fury of Osaka was one ship against 12. The odds were impossible. But Yuki did not care about odds. She cared about the 10,000 people who would die if she did nothing. Her ship tore into the La Koreath formation with weapons blazing. She destroyed 2 raiders in the first pass, catching them by surprise. A third fell to her gunner's precise fire. Then the Koreath regrouped and turned their full attention on her. The battle lasted 47 minutes. When it was over, the fury of Osaka was a burning wreck, drifting dead in space. Of her crew of 300, only 62 survived. But the civilian convoy escaped. 10,000 people lived because one human captain refused to stand by while innocents died. Yuki Tanaka was among the survivors. She was pulled from an escape pod by rescue teams, badly burned, barely conscious. But she was a live dot, and the galaxy had noticed. The massacre of Vega Station happened 2 months later. Vega Station was a human outpost in a quiet sector far from the front lines. It was a supply depot and rest point for human forces. It was also home to 14,000 civilians, families of the soldiers who were fighting and dying against the Koreath. The raiders came without warning. 20 Koreath warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and began their attack. The station's defenses were minimal, designed to stop pirates, not war fleets. A Vareth battle group was in the system when the attack began. 12 heavy cruisers, more than enough firepower to drive off the raiders. The human commander of the station sent an emergency request for assistance. The Vareth commanders. Response was recorded and would later be played at the assembly. We are not authorized to engage in defensive operations for human installations. Our orders are to protect Vareth assets only. You will have to manage your own defense. The Vareth ships jumped out of the system, leaving Vega Station alone. The Koreath took their time. They could have destroyed the station quickly, but they preferred to hunt. They breached the hull in multiple places and sent boarding parties inside. They moved through the corridors, killing everyone they found. The station's security forces fought back. Civilians armed themselves with anything they could find. Parents hid their children in maintenance shafts and cargo holds. Some survived. Most did not. When human rescue ships finally arrived, they found only silence and death. 14,000 people had been killed. The youngest victim was 3 months old. The oldest was 94. The Koreath had spared no one. The bodies of children were found still, clutching the toys they had been playing. With when the raiders came, Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood before the Galactic Assembly one final time. The chamber was full. Every species had sent representatives. Even the Koreath had observers present, watching from a gallery reserved for non-member states. The elder species sat in their usual places, curious about what the human would say. Elena walked to the center podium. She was not carrying documents this time. She was not going to make another petition. She was not going to make another petition. 67 years ago, she began, her voice echoing through the vast chamber. Humanity joined this concord. We were told that membership meant protection. We were told that we would be part of something greater. We were told that our voices would matter. She paused, looking around at the assembled delegates. We believed you. For 67 years, we have been your laborers. We have mined your metals and grown your food and built your stations. We have done the work you considered beneath you. For 67 years, we have been your soldiers. We have fought your wars and died in your battles. We have sent our children to the front lines while you stayed safe at home. For 67 years, we have been your sacrifices. When danger came, you sent us forward. When the enemy attacked, you stood behind us. When we died, you shrugged and said, there are always more humans. Elena's voice grew harder. We asked only for dignity. We asked only for respect. We asked only to be treated as equals. You gave us contempt. You gave us mockery. You gave us the Meridian Star and the Kepler Reach and Vega Station. She reached up and removed her diplomatic credentials, the badge that marked her as humanity's representative to the Concorde. She placed it carefully on the floor. Humanity withdraws from the Galactic Concorde. Effective immediately. The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates shouted in surprise. Others laughed. The Varth ambassador's mandibles clicked with amusement. And where will you go, little mammals? The Dren Archon called out, its voice bubbling through its translator. You cannot survive without us. You have nothing. You are nothing. Elena stopped at the door and turned back. Her eyes found the Dren Archons. We survived ice ages when our world tried to freeze us. We survived plagues that killed half our people. We survived wars that burned our cities to ash. We survived ourselves. She smiled, and there was nothing warm in it. We will survive you. Then she was gone. Every species underestimated humans until patience ran out. The galaxy expected humanity to crawl into the darkness and die. Without Concorde support, without access to trade routes, without the protection of the elder species, how could these primitive mammals survive? The Varth made jokes about it. The Solari placed bets on how long it would take. The Dren had already begun dividing up human territory among themselves. They were still laughing when the Terran Armada struck. Admiral Marcus Chun stood on the bridge of his flagship, the dreadnought Thermopylae. He was 91 years old now, kept alive by medical technology that his crew had developed in secret. His body was thin and frail, but his mind was sharp as a blade. Around him, the largest human fleet ever assembled moved in perfect formation. 2,000 warships of every class, from swift destroyers to massive carriers. Each one was crewed by soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Each one was armed with weapons that the Concorde had never seen. The Admiral, his tactical officer, reported, the Kareth Dominion main fleet has been located. 300 ships in the Arcturus system. They're attacking a Varth colony. Chun studied the display. The Varth had abandoned the colony, of course. They had left 2 million of their own people to die, rather than risk their precious ships. The Kareth were circling like sharks, enjoying the fear, taking their time. Set course for Arcturus, Chun ordered. All ships. Maximum speed. The fleet jumped on. They emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, directly between the Kareth fleet and the helpless colony. The Kareth commander was so surprised that he did nothing for almost 30 seconds. His sensors were telling him impossible things. Human ships. Thousands of them. Moving in ways that human ships could not move. Armed with weapons that humans could not build. This is Admiral Marcus Chun of the Terran Armada. Chun's voice broadcast across all channels. You are in violation of sentient rights. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. The Kareth commander laughed. His species had hunted across the galaxy for generations. They had never been defeated. They had never surrendered. This old human was insane. We do not surrender to prey, the commander growled. We hunt. We kill. You are meat. Very well, Chun said. All ships weapons free. The battle lasted less than an hour. Human ships moved like nothing the Kareth had ever faced. They were faster and more agile, able to change direction in ways that defied physics. Their weapons punched through Kareth armor that had stopped everything the Concorde could throw at them. Their shields absorbed fire that should have torn them apart. But more than technology, it was tactics that won the day. Human commanders thought in ways the Kareth could not predict. They coordinated their attacks with perfect timing. They exploited weaknesses that the Kareth did not know they had. They fought not as individual ships, but as a single massive organism. When it was over, 273 Kareth ships were destroyed or disabled. The Terran Armada had lost 11. The Kareth commander's ship was crippled, but not destroyed. Chun ordered it boarded. Human Marines cut through the hull and fought their way to the bridge. They found the commander waiting for them, his claws extended, ready to die fighting. Instead, the human Marine commander, a woman named Sarah Washington, lowered her weapon. "You have a choice," she said. "Die here, or go home and tell your people what you saw today. Tell them that if they ever attack human space again, we will come for them. Not to conquer, not to enslave, to end them, completely, forever." The commander stared at her with predator's eyes. "Why would you let me live? I would not do the same for you." "No, you wouldn't," Sarah agreed. "That's the difference between us." The Kareth commander was released. He returned to the Dominion and reported what he had seen. Within 3 months, the Kareth had retreated beyond the galactic rim, back to the darkness they had come from. They would trouble the galaxy no more. The Concord watched in disbelief. The Verith held emergency meetings. The Solari doubled their fleet production. The Dren fortified their borders. They had made a terrible mistake, they realized. They had created an enemy where they could have had a friend. And now that enemy was the most powerful military force in the galaxy. "They will come for us next," the Varith delegate said, terror making his mandibles tremble. "They will want revenge. We must strike first, while we still can." But humanity did not come for revenge. Not immediately. Instead, they went to the Kepler Reach. The 3 stolen colony worlds had been under Solari control for 7 years. The original human colonists had been scattered across the galaxy, and Solari settlers had taken their place. The farms that humans had built now fed Solari mouths. The cities that humans had raised now housed Solari families. A Terran battle group dropped out of faster than light travel in the Kepler Reach, 100 ships. Led by the carrier Victory of New Eden, the Solari garrison commander received a simple message: "Leave. Now. You have 24 hours." The Solari Empire refused. They sent a relief fleet of 300 warships, confident that numbers would win the day. The battle that followed became known as the First Kepler Engagement. It lasted 4 hours. The Solari fleet was destroyed. Not defeated, destroyed. Every ship was reduced to wreckage. 30,000 Solari soldiers died in the cold of space. The human ships suffered only minor damage. Their shields held against Solari weapons. Their armor turned aside Solari missiles. Their crews fought with discipline and skill that the Solari had never seen. The garrison commander surrendered the next morning. Solari civilians were evacuated peacefully. Their belongings were returned. Their lives were spared. "Why are you letting them go?" A human Marine asked Captain David Okonkwo, who now commanded a company of soldiers. "After what they did to us." David thought of his sister, killed on the Meridian Star. He thought of the refugees he had seen arriving at Earth stations, hollow-eyed and broken. He thought of the years of humiliation and contempt. "Because we are not them," he said finally. "We are better than them. If we become what they were, then we've lost, even if we win." The Kepler Reach was reclaimed. Human colonists began returning to their homes. Some of the old farmers found their fields still planted with crops they had chosen. Some of the old families found their houses still standing. 7 years had passed, but the land remembered them. Word spread across the galaxy. Humanity had won. Humanity had shown mercy. Humanity was not what the Concord had believed. Then came the Battle of Proxima Centauri. The Varith hegemony decided that humanity had to be stopped before they grew even stronger. They gathered the largest fleet in their species' history, 1,500 warships, the pride of their navy, the best crews, The most powerful weapons. They planned a surprise attack on Earth itself. Cut off the head, they reasoned, and the body would die. Human intelligence had been tracking their preparations for weeks. When the Verith fleet jumped toward Proxima Centauri, the last waypoint before Earth, the Terran Armada was waiting. Admiral Chung commanded the defense personally. He was too old to be in battle, his doctors said. He was too frail. He should rest and let younger officers lead. I have waited 30 years for this moment, Chun said. I will see it through. The Verith fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel and found 500 human warships arranged in a wall of steel and fire. Behind them, the Thermopylae hung like a mountain of metal. This is Admiral Chun. The old man's voice broadcast to both fleets. You are entering Terran space. Turn back now, and we will let you leave. Continue, and none of you will see home again. The Varith commander laughed. You are outnumbered 3-1, human. Your bluff does not impress us. Today, we end your little rebellion. Very well, Chun said. All ships, engage. The Battle of Proxima Centauri was the largest naval engagement in galactic history. 9 hours of constant fighting. Ships destroyed by the hundreds. Energy weapons tearing through armor. Missiles leaving trails of fire across the void. The Verith fought bravely. For all their arrogance, they were not cowards. They pressed their attack again and again, throwing wave after wave of ships at the human lines. But the human lines held. Human ships fought in perfect coordination, covering each other, creating crossfire zones that no Varith vessel could survive. Human crews responded to damage with incredible speed, rerouting power, sealing breaches, keeping their ships fighting long after they should have fallen. Human commanders adapted to every Varith tactic, finding counters that the enemy had never seen. And when individual human ships were finally overwhelmed, their crews fought to the last. They rammed Varith vessels. They detonated their own reactors in the midst of enemy formations. They died so that their comrades could live. By the 6th hour, the Varith had lost a third of their fleet. By the 8th hour, they had lost half. When the battle finally ended, 900 Virith ships had been destroyed. The Hegemony's military power was broken in a single day. The Terran Armada had lost 12 ships. Verith escape pods drifted through the wreckage, filled with survivors waiting to die. Human ships moved among them, their weapons silent. The pods opened, and human hands reached inside. They were pulling Verith soldiers out, giving them medical treatment, saving their lives. A Verith commander, his shell cracked and bleeding, looked up at the human medic who was bandaging his wounds. Every species underestimated humans until patience ran out. 3 years had passed since the Battle of Proxima Centauri. 3 years since humanity had proven itself to the galaxy. 3 years since everything had changed. The Galactic Concord was gone. Its great halls stood empty, its crystal domes dark and silent. The organization that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years had simply ceased to exist. The Varith were too broken to lead. The Solari were too humiliated to demand respect. The Dren were too afraid to resist. In its place, something new had risen. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at a podium in a chamber that looked nothing like the old assembly. This room was built in a circle, with seats arranged so that every delegate could see every other delegate. There was no back row. There were no hidden corners. Everyone was equal. Welcome, Elena said, to the first session of the Terran Accords. The chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. Some were old powers, humbled and uncertain. The Verith delegate sat in a seat no better or worse than anyone else's. The Solari representative's crystal body flickered with nervous light. The Dren Archon's tentacles moved constantly, a sign of anxiety in their species. But there were new faces too. Species that the Concord had dismissed as primitives. Species that had been conquered and enslaved. species that had never been allowed to speak. The Krellian delegate was a small, furry creature with large eyes and delicate hands. His species had been used as servants by the Verith for centuries. Now he sat as an equal, his voice as important as any other. The Vorten representative was a being of living stone, slow and patient. Her species had been strip-mined by the Solari for their valuable minerals. Now she sat free, her people rebuilding their shattered worlds. The Neth ambassador was an insectoid like the Verith, but smaller and gentler. His species had been nearly exterminated in a Verith expansion war. Now they had been given new worlds to colonize, new ships to travel in, new hope to hold on to. These species and many more had been lifted up by humanity, given technology, given resources, given voices, not out of charity, but out of a belief that the galaxy belonged to everyone. The Terran Accords are not an empire, Elena continued. We do not seek to rule you. We do not seek to control you. We seek only to build something better than what came before. She looked around the chamber at all the faces watching her. The old Concord was built on power. The strong dominated the weak. The ancient dismissed the young. Entire species were treated as tools, as resources, as things to be used and discarded. The Terran Accords are built on different principles. Equal representation for all members, regardless of age or power. Shared defense, so that no species faces threats alone. And the radical notion that every sapient being has worth. The Vareth delegate shifted uncomfortably. His species had ruled for so long. They believed so completely in their own superiority. Learning humility was hard. You are wondering if this is just talk, Elena said, looking directly at him. You are wondering if humanity will become what you were. If we will use our power to dominate and control. The Vareth said nothing, but his mandibles clicked once in acknowledgement. We could, Elena admitted. We have the power. Our fleet is the strongest in the galaxy. Our soldiers are the best trained. Our technology is the most advanced. If we wanted to become tyrants, no one could stop us. She paused, letting the weight of that truth settle over the chamber. But we remember what tyranny feels like. We remember the Marian Star. We remember Vega Station. We remember the stolen colonies and the mocking laughter and the decades of contempt. We will not become the thing we fought against. This is not weakness. This is strength. The strength to show mercy when we could show cruelty. The strength to offer friendship when we could demand submission. The strength to build when we could only destroy. The chamber was silent. Then, slowly the Krellian delegate began to tap his small hands together. It was their species' way of showing approval. Other delegates joined in, each in their own fashion. The Vorten rumbled. The Neth clicked. Even the Solari's light pulsed in a pattern that meant agreement. The Verith delegate sat still for a long moment. Then, very slowly, he raised one of his 6 arms in a gesture of respect. It was the first time any Verith had shown that gesture to a non-Verith in recorded history. The session continued. Treaties were signed. Agreements were made. Trade routes were established. Defense pacts were formed. It would take years, perhaps decades, to build a new order. But today was the beginning. When the session ended, Elena walked out into the corridor and found Admiral Marcus Chun waiting for her. He was in a wheelchair now, too weak to stand for long. But his eyes were still sharp, still watching. Well done, he said quietly. Better than I ever imagined. We haven't finished yet, Elena said. This is just the start. I know. Chum smiled, and for a moment, he looked like the young officer he had once been, full of fire and determination. But I know it will be finished. That's enough for me. He died 3 weeks later, peacefully, in his sleep. He was 94 years old. He had seen humanity rise from servitude to leadership. He had seen his dream become reality. The Terran Accords named their military academy after him. The Marcus Chen Academy of Strategic Studies trained officers from every member species. Its motto was a quote from its namesake: "Victory without honor is not victory at all." Far from the great halls and diplomatic chambers, on a terraformed moon that had once been a penal mining colony, Yuki Tanaka stood before a monument. The monument was a simple wall of black stone. On it were carved 3 million names. Every human who had died under Concord oppression. Miners killed in accidents that could have been prevented. Soldiers killed in battles they were sent to lose. Civilians killed in massacres that no one had tried to stop. Her brother's name was there: Kenji Tanaka. Dead at 24 in a tunnel collapse on Inferno's edge. His body never recovered. YUK, I was old now. Her hair white, her face lined with years and struggle. But she was not a miner anymore. She was the elected governor of this moon, leading a community of 200,000 people who had built something beautiful from nothing. Small hand tugged at her sleeve. Yuki looked down at her granddaughter, a girl of 7 with bright eyes and endless questions. "Grandmother," the girl said, "why did the other species treat us so badly?" Yuki knelt down, her old knees protesting, and met her granddaughter's eyes. Behind her, the names of the dead stretched across the stone wall. "Because they didn't understand something important about humans," Yuki said. "What?" "That kindness is not weakness. That patience is not cowardice." Yuki smiled, and there was something fierce in it. Something that remembered the mines and the overseers and the decades of waiting. And that when patience runs out, heaven itself should tremble. The girl nodded seriously, trying to understand. She was too young to really grasp it, but that was okay. She would learn. A generation would grow up free, never knowing the chains that had bound their grandparents. They would take for granted the dignity that their ancestors had fought and died for. And that, Yuki thought, was the real victory. Not the battles won, not the empires toppled, not the treaties signed. The real victory was this child, standing in the sunlight of a world that should have been a prison, asking questions about a past she would never have to live. YUK, I stood up and took her granddaughter's hand. Together, they walked away from the monument, toward the town center where families were gathering for the weekly market. Life went on, as it always did, as it always would. Above them, the stars burned in the endless black. For millions of years, those stars had watched countless species rise and fall. They had seen empires born and die. They had witnessed cruelty beyond imagination and kindness beyond measure. Now they looked down on a galaxy changed by a species that everyone had underestimated. The Varith were learning humility. Their young questioning beliefs that had been absolute for 10,000 years. The Solari were adapting, finding new ways to define greatness beyond conquest and control. The Dren were rebuilding, slowly accepting that wisdom came in many forms. And throughout the galaxy, species that had been oppressed were rising. Species that had been dismissed were speaking. Species that had been alone were finding fellowship. It was not perfect. It would never be perfect. There would be conflicts and disagreements and moments of doubt. The old hatreds would take generations to fade. The old wounds would never fully heal, but it was better than what had come before. On Earth, in a museum dedicated to human history, a display showed the image of a diplomatic credential lying on a marble floor. Below it, a plaque read, Ambassador Elena Vasquez's badge. Left at the Galactic Concord Assembly, November 12, 2258, the moment humanity stopped asking for respect and started demanding it. School children walked past, barely glancing at it. To them, it was ancient history. They lived in a galaxy where humans were respected and feared. They could not imagine a time when their species had been servants and sacrifices. Their teacher, a young woman named Maria Chun, Admiral Chun's great-great-granddaughter, gathered them together. "This is where our story changed," she said, pointing at the badge. 67 years, we were patient. We endured. We waited. And when patience ran out, we showed the galaxy who we really are. "Who are we?" a student asked.